was given this opportunity
Yeah.
because of a reality that I was born into. I think soft silica, and what they do is that they use very, very, very high purity silica chips to store data. Right now, I don't know if you've ever seen like a data farm, but you can go to about the strategic vision of the company. I'm always looking for new cool ideas. Like, for example, where I'm currently living in Israel, there's a tech transfer with all the big universities. We're moving into a time where a new consciousness is being born, and part of that, we're talking about sustainability. We're talking about women. We're talking about these new ideas coming into the world.
There are a lot of things as you transition from generation to generation. There's certain things that the next generation will find very comfortable. That will be like, "What are you doing?" It's the same thing that happened to us as well from our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers. They all
Varsity on record. Light is particularly a wave. Let it resonate for generations. Today, joining the sustainability conversation is Yarin Weltsman, a COO of Quest Minerals, a mine based in the Northwest Province. It's a silica mine. I just want you to find out more about what she's really about, what the mine is really about, and what her visions are, and what her goals as a person also are in defining our future in a sustainable way. So hope you enjoy, hope you have fun, and you find value in this as we did. Because God Almighty, I saw you'll enjoy.
The redefinition has come, and today we're joined by a redefiner in the mining sector, the COO of Quest Minerals, a silica mine, and we're just going to obviously, as usual, talk about how the redefinition of the future, the society, and how the applications of silica can be part of that, make that journey happen in a very much intrinsic way. Joined by Yarin Weltsman. How are you doing, Yarin?
Good. Thank you so much for having me today.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure as well. So, we came across in a typical time, I'd say, the festive in itself. Not so many of us are really doing much. It's just being on the road and just trying to kind of rest. But as they usually say, there's no rest for the wicked, and hence we kind of having this conversation today. In this case, who is Yarin Weltsman?
Amazing. So, firstly, I grew up in South Africa. I'm a proud Joburg girl. And, in recent months and years, I would say that I've started working with my father, who has been in the mining space for over 30 years, really just working on a lot of different major mining projects throughout South Africa and Africa in general. And actually, one of his previous companies was listed on the JSC. And in recent months, we've gotten started on a very promising project, which we called Quest Silica, that falls under the Quest Minerals brand. And what this project is that it's a very high grade silica quartz mine, and it's situated in the Northwest Province in a great location, close to Rustenburg, close enough to Pretoria, close enough to Johannesburg. So we're really able to have access to a lot of central points that we can supply the silica quartz to. And yeah, it's greenfield project. It's our new baby, and we're very, very excited.
It's actually beautiful. Didn't know that you're from Joburg. Um, but yeah, it's quite a pleasure to really know. And I would say, in such instances, Northwest for me, Rustenburg more so in particular, is my actual home myself.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is actually very, very, I would say, very, very close to home. And the impact that it is to really provide in terms of that, because there's something about mines and the sustainability impact that they bring within the communities in which they find themselves in, right?
Yeah,
And it's much more great to see that happening. I think there's one question that I just want to slot in this case, which I thought that you'd bring into your answer there, in terms of being a young female in the mining industry in itself. I'm also looking at the fact that we're also looking at the SDG goals in sustainability briefings. Why get into it? I know there might be a sense of saying that might be I'm putting a stigma on it, saying a young woman in mining, but basically let me just say a young person in mining, because that's very, very rare to find.
for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, firstly, I will humbly say that, I was given this opportunity
Yeah.
because of a reality that I was born into. I think that, thank God, I have taken this opportunity, and you know with my studies, with my brains, with my hands, with my sweat, with my blood, with my tears, I have taken this opportunity and really tried to make the best out of it. But there's no doubt that this isn't and has not traditionally been a space with many women. And I don't really want to look at it that, like, oh, I'm a woman and I'm trying to make some sort of statement with that. I just think that it is beautiful to add more diversity in any place that you're working at, in civil society, in any sector of the world that we live in, the community that we find ourselves in. I think that it is so important to have representation from all sides, if it's all kinds of gender, if it's all kinds of culture, heritage, and nationality. Why?
Yeah.
Always add value and to any kind of complex situation when you're trying to solve a problem. I did my master's degree in design, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and I think that one of the biggest catalysts for creating more innovation is to be able to solve a problem from many different directions. And if
Yeah.
you are born in a certain gender or whatever way you may identify, you're able to bring your own um, perspective and your own knowledge, intellect, and direction to that table where you're having a discussion, to that situation, and it can also come down to, even things like emotional intelligence and, women's, I would say, ability to have perhaps a little bit more compassion and see everyone around them. And when you're trying to build a healthy, sustainable, beautiful organization, you want that compassion, you want someone to be able to care even more. Not that men don't care, and not that we don't, thank God, have a lot of policies in place that make sure that there is justice and there is equality. But I think that having a female touch definitely is valuable. And I'll say that I've seen, especially in the digital spaces, a lot of women that are, with the rise of STEM and women in engineering, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of keenness, I would say, from a lot of young women to enter the space and to bring their own unique energy to it. So I think it's cool. I think it's exciting. Um, and yeah, I'm really happy about it.
No, I actually love that answer for many reasons, to be honest, right? More especially from a young person. I'm a young person myself. Don't be confused by me using some of these terms. But it's a sense of saying you're talking about diversity, and I am one person who believes so much in experiences through each and every single culture, through each and every single person, regardless of who they are, how they identify, and their gender more so as well. So some of those aspects come into point of when you actually said that we are coming in with this type of experience, with this type of touch, with this sense of, how should I put it? individuality that was never much experienced back in the 20th century, very much being experienced in this current era in itself. And as we go further and further, we're experiencing that working in certain industries is a little bit different. And that touch adds and actually adds to that innovation, which we really want to see, which is one thing that I really love about that. And I touched on that question due to the fact that it also covers in terms of the sustainability of gender equality within the workplace spaces as well, right? It pushes you to really think much and say, as a man, if a woman can do this, how are the women doing this? And how are they really pushing this industry going forward? That adds another click of an idea, that adds a certain sense of collaboration aspect to it, that then move the industry in a whole different manner than it ever has been. And I would believe to say that that's possibly why technology is kind of like moving this quick as well, due to these basic comparisons among ourselves, and in a way that raises collaborations under those very circumstances, right? So getting away from that, we would then come into saying, how do we really ensure health of the workers in and the surrounding communities from the potential hazards of silica in itself, right? Silica
Mm-hmm.
dust as well in those cases. How does that really fit in? Because now we're just getting a little bit into the social spectrum of things.
For sure.
Uh-huh.
So, firstly, I would say that, thank God, South Africa, in and of itself, has a lot of regulations and a lot of amazing stress, a lot of amazing frameworks that really allow all stakeholders to do things in a proper manner, in a manner that respects the people, that respects the environment. And as a company, there's two things. On the one hand, of course, we have there's no other way but to have all of the proper permits, all of the proper environmental regulations. Everything needs to be strictly adhered to. And yeah, and for us, it's just all about adhering to those mine and health, like the Health and Safety Act. And obviously, within the company itself, we have certain policies, we have different codes. Things are in practice, and I would say for myself, as the COO, it's very important. We're a greenfield project. That means that we're a brand new mine. We only started really just a few months ago, and first of all, ensuring that the people that we work with, the different companies that we work with, are all online and on board with bringing all of these principles and values as a foundation from day one. This is part of how we're doing things. This is part of the company culture. This is part of the future that we want to create. So I think that from the get-go, making all of these things a very strong part of the basis of the company will really allow us and ensure it to be part of the future. And yeah, and like there's a lot of small practical things that that we can do, and also one of the things that we were speaking about is that right now we don't we don't do a lot of processing on the actual mine itself. So in terms of dust, in terms of different things, there's much less of an impact because there's not that much processing done. And on top of that, for example, in China, they have something called acid leaching, which is a certain process that they do to remove the iron, to make the silicon more pure. And this acid leaching is done with really chemicals that they're the kind of chemicals that if one drop drops on your skin, it really can like eat through your entire hand. And for example, in South Africa, that's not commonly done. Besides the fact that we're not even doing processing, but like acid leaching is not even a thing in South Africa. So I think that we're definitely very aware of what can and cannot be done. And yeah, as I said, making that foundational from day one.
I actually love the way that you actually spoke about the fact that there are other ways in terms of processing that are used somewhere else in the world, and that in South Africa there are regulations that assure that we are in the good green space, if I put it, in terms of also protecting more so. I believe some of these go into waters and our ecosystems,
Yeah,
water ecosystems and our forest ecosystems, which kind of get into plants and can obviously then kill a lot of other life in itself, environmental wise, right? So
for
this
sure.
I would have then went into points of then really asking in terms of the environmental impact, but in this case, you really kind of answered that, right?
Right.
And how you then mitigate that is obviously through the very same policies within the country that are obviously there, and going about them allows you guys to also be able to see and understand what you're actually giving to the very communities in which you are in as well under those, right? So
Correct.
I think that would really put us in a sense of asking, now we know about Silka, right? We know how the safety really works around that, and we know how the policies within our country really works. But what are the main applications that really are very much groundbreaking to current society life,
Cool.
and potentially also the future?
Amazing. And I think that I would just love to add just before that that
Yeah.
um, just one more thing, that we are trying to implement is that we have a mining plan, and that mining plan is basically used and designed to meet the production needs on an annual basis. So it means that we don't touch areas unless we're ready to mine them, unless we're ready to extract ore from them. It's not like, we're just going, and there's stockpiles just sitting. Everything is done in a very strategic, mapped out way.
Yeah.
And and we hope that in the future we'll also be able to rehabilitate those areas. I don't that that doesn't happen overnight, but in the future we hope that definitely will be part of the future that we're looking at. But yeah, so, but basically back to your question, I think the beauty of silica and what made me, kind of excited when I started looking into the space and being part of the space is that as I sit here in my bedroom, I'm drinking out of a glass. The
Yeah.
floor underneath my feet is made out of ceramic tiles, and the microchip in my computer is made out of very, very high purity silica. So really everything around us, light bulbs, the windows, really everything that you could look around you has silica quartz within it,
Mhm.
and that is because the mineral is very diverse in its applications. There are also different purities of silica, which will then obviously impact, how much it costs, what kind of countries use that kind of silica the most. But the main, I would say that there's basically like a scale. So the scale would be that on the one hand we have silica that is, a little bit less high purity silica, and that can be used mainly in like construction. It's used in filtration systems. It's used in ceramics. Tiles are made out of it, and that's kind of silica. That's a little bit on the lower end. There's also silica that's used, to create specialty alloys and ferroalloys, and it's used in foundries and to make silicon metals and all of that to do with like steel and platinum production. And then as the silica becomes more refined, it then can be used, for example, to make like high-end ceramics. It can be used at an even higher purity for glass. And then when we get to very, very, very high purity silica, which I'm talking now like 99.99899%, 9 or 8 or 9.99999%, and very low iron levels and very low aluminium levels, which again take a lot of processing, but they do exist in the world, obviously. That level of high purity silica is used for solar panels, it's used for microchips, for electronics, for different applications that need this very, very high purity silica, and to be conductors.
Mhm.
So that right now for us is not where we're at because we're a new mine. Thank God our natural ore coming out of the ground is already very high. You know, some companies that will send our labs to actually get confused because they think that we've already processed the silica because it's already coming out the ground at a 99% purity, but actually we haven't even touched it. So thank God, you know, we do have very high purity silica naturally, and as hopefully our processing capabilities will develop in the future, then we'll be able to supply more extensive markets such as glass and, you know, I'm hoping one day solar panels. That's kind of my personal dream because I think definitely in South Africa, especially with load shedding
Definitely.
and with the crisis happening right now,
Mhm.
um, and I do know that there are plans to build more solar panel manufacturing facilities in South Africa and
Yeah.
really finding new and greener ways, to more sustainable ways and unfortunately more independent ways, to be able to produce electricity. So yeah, there's a whole the silica market in general, and especially the high purity silica market, is a huge market. It's a, you know, it's the but I mean, I can pull up the numbers now, but I know that, you know, it's said to reach over $22 billion by 2030. So it's in everything. There's a lot of potential around it, and it's only growing.
Yeah. No, that's actually very, very super beautiful. The way that you actually spoke about the purities, I was thinking how as to the purities of a diamond. Um, that's essentially how I was really thinking about it when you
Hmm.
literally just stated that. And I kid you not, right now, there's somebody out there who thought that sand made glass.
Hmm.
I I'm not lying. Somebody out there really thought that sand made glass due to the fact that there's. I think I literally got this question from a sister of mine.
Hmm.
Not so long ago. I think was it 3 weeks ago. They watched a
Hmm.
movie called Elementals, and for some reason, one
Okay.
of the elements within that then started creating glass out of sand, and it became
Wow.
a thing, right? And they said that because I didn't have even much to say myself, but now I have something to say. I will tell
Correct.
them,
Now
you
you
know.
know.
Yeah, now 100% no. So with how that really goes, how do you then monitor and report your sustainability performance, or how are you planning to really go about that?
So normally, how it normally works, and I'm sure that you know you have some insight of this, but
Yeah,
these reports basically have to be reported on a quarterly basis.
yeah,
So we have to create these reports, and then they're shared with different stakeholders, if it's neighboring communities, if it's the local government, and different groups that need this kind of information. And I think that in the future we'll also have like stakeholder engagement sessions and just make sure that this information is is out there. And I, for one, you know, I'm very involved in like the financial projections and the modeling of the company,
yeah.
and all of these things are already, you know, they're fixed into the budget, for the next 10 years. So there, you know, there's resources committed to ensure that all of this is done in yeah, in the proper and the best manner possible.
Beautiful. And in terms of, I heard you speaking of the 10-year lineup, right? In terms of the resources that are committed to assuring that there's clear monitoring of these sustainability reports and having all these engagements that go into the future to really have people aware of what is really going on, and
Hmm.
how they can obviously then prepare certain ways of mitigating. So what do you believe are the current future trends in terms of demand? I know that you really touched on this in terms of how the solar panel industry, and that it's planning to reach 22 billion, I believe, by 2030 in terms of projections on that. But what are the trends around that?
Right. So, firstly, I will say that I think there's certain markets that are always going to stay more traditional in the way that they are. For example, if we look at the ceramic space, people are going to keep having ceramic tops for their kitchens. Like, unless other cool things are going to happen. I think that most of these things that are very physical will continue having kind of a traditional role. But there's a few things. Number one, I think that there's a lot of technology coming in to find new, more innovative ways to either use these materials to change them. For example, we have friends who have a company called Converge, and they use sensors to minimize the amount of concrete used in construction, in building buildings and in different things. So there's I think that there's going to be technology that is going to go and develop and innovate. But in terms of innovations within silica itself, I would say, one of the coolest things that I've seen so far is that Microsoft has a project called, I think it's called even like Microsoft Silica. And what they do is that they use very, very, very high purity silica chips to store data. Right now, I don't know if you've ever seen like a data farm, but you can go to a place that has warehouses on top of warehouses of just kilometers of huge, bulky machinery, and that is quote unquote your cloud. So when we're paying Apple to keep our photos on the cloud, that cloud isn't actually made out of air. That cloud is made up of thousands of, if not like millions of tons of metal warehouses that are actually physically storing all of this data. So one cool thing that I've seen, and perhaps you can share this with the listeners in a link, is basically these silica chips that contain on top of them all the data and all the information in a way that can't be changed. It's very secure. It's secure in terms of the data itself, and it's also secure in the longevity of the data's capabilities of being stored on these chips. So that's one really, really cool application that I saw for silica, and I hope that Microsoft won't be the only company to bring out something like this, and that other companies will do the same. And I, for one, when I'm thinking about the strategic vision of the company, I'm always looking for new cool ideas. Like, for example, where I'm currently living in Israel, there's a tech transfer with all the big universities so they're doing certain research, scientific research in the labs with different minerals, with different whatever. They're even doing research on like mushrooms and how to use mushrooms in crazy ways. But anyway, I'm always looking for trends for scientific papers, or looking to connect to new people that are doing research on silica quartz and finding new and amazing things to do with it. I haven't yet found something that I want to adopt, or that I want to kind of take behind, but it's definitely something that's on the agenda and something that I'm actively working on, because my vision for Quest is not for it to be just like another local South African mine. Like, there's other silica quartz mine within 200-kilometer radius of where we are. These companies have been going for the past 30 years, and they're supplying, and it's lovely and it's great. Thank God they're supporting the community, they're making money. But I would love to kind of take things to the next level. I love technology. I love innovation. I would love to be able to do something that is beyond and to bring, a fresh spirit to the mining industry, a fresh spirit to South Africa, and yeah, just pushing the envelope and really just trying to just trying to be better every day. I think that that's at the end of the day what we're all striving for.
Yeah.
Learn more, to challenge ourselves more, to
Yeah.
really think about how we can enrich the lives of those around us, how we can help each other, how we can push ourselves forward. And that's kind of the energy and the spirit that I try bring into my life, that I try bring into the company. Um, and yeah, it's exciting times to be alive.
100%. Actually, you know, I would have one question onto that because I heard you when you were speaking about the purity of Silka, right? And how Microsoft is currently using that to leverage in terms of storage, right?
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, obviously, I believe that in storage, that means that let's talk AI for a minute. In storage, I would believe that talks on the fact that with AI, there's conductivity in language and what it's really learning. It has to store that knowledge somewhere else. And I believe this would actually be a way of bettering AI as well going into the future.
Yeah, no doubt. No
Right.
doubt.
So
I have, yeah, sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I'm really been enjoying AI, less on the Chat GPT side and more on the I've been creating AI art on Midjourney.
oh yeah.
I know you had an opportunity to play around with it, but it is a really amazing it's just an amazing software, and I'm really enjoying uh just creating on it. And yeah, have you had a chance to create any sort of generative art?
Um, Not yet, actually. For some reason, there was a time when I was actually looking for something like that, and then I couldn't really get a chance to do it. But I've played around with AI in terms of just really on the question line of things, really just to really find out about certain aspects of things. And I found that it's a little bit more better than Google, and it's easy to really go around. But I believe that I've created oh no, the actual only one that I've done, I believe. I wouldn't say it's is it AI art if it's on TikTok. Um
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I think that that's the only one that I've ever seen or done, but it was on TikTok. But
interesting.
yeah, but more or less, I really run about the how can AI really teach teach me something. How I've been really also diving too much into how it can also be a personal tutor, for somebody, and what's the precise way of really using it. Because there is software that is being developed for personal tutors, I believe. Even Bill Gates really mentioned it not so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there are also ways, I believe, with the current software itself that we can actually create that, how should I put it, that structure to say this is exactly what to ask and how to ask it. But that would mean that you need an extra person to really be with the student and really do that for them, and then be able to make them leverage that and then teach them how to use it, and to then further that without um, much. Because I believe that once it gets into the market more so, it will be a little bit harder for some of those who cannot reach to it, or have much exposure to it. Because I've also seen, we also work with low socioeconomic
Mm-hmm.
students, right? And what I've seen is that they don't really have access to certain aspects. You talk about OpenGPT, you talk about AI, they look at you like, what are you really talking about? You don't know that thing. The only thing that would say they know about AI is maybe just having it on WhatsApp. I believe they said there's one on WhatsApp. I haven't seen that one. They would have to
Mm-hmm.
know about that one and how to really use it. But one of the ways that my foundation has also kind of read it around that was to really just say, let's start having debates. But then instead of having that debate coach come through, They then use AI to kind of do exactly what I'm saying, to kind of
Interesting.
give them early access, and that early access will kind of, I believe, at some point ruffle a few people to say, look, you can actually create a software that can be accessed with very much ease from your end to these people that can obviously then access it, and then that boosts the quality of education at the end of the day. So that's more around the notion of it. That's what I'm saying. I'm very much excited about how the future is looking, and that all of it is based on Silka. I believe the 3D buildings are based on Silka.
Yeah,
At this at this point, everything I see will be Silka in my head. You know,
for sure.
so yeah, so
Um,
it'll be just some right.
yes. Yeah, that's yeah,
That's
that's the future.
100%. So, but now one last question, a question that I asked all my guests basically. What is your definition, which will now be a redefinition of the future itself?
A redefinition of the future
Yeah.
in all aspects.
And all,
If I can imagine a future, what would that future be?
yes.
Well, firstly, I will say that um as a person of faith and as
Mhm.
a Jew, our our spiritual heritage gives us the almost prophetic wisdom to tell us what kind of life we should live on an individual level and on a collective level. So whatever answer I will tell you doesn't come from me. It comes from the sages. I think that really number one, we need to follow the the law of loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. And what does that really mean? It means that we live in a world where there is no zero sum. It's not a zero sum game. We live in a world where there is enough space for every person to be their authentic expression, where they can be themselves, and that doesn't that doesn't limit my ability to be myself, because I have learned to make space for you. I have learned to see you. I have learned to also love you, even if you're different than me, even if your beliefs are not like mine. And I think that the more that we're able to make space and hold space for other people that are different and to love them like we would love ourselves. Of course you love yourself because
Yeah.
you agree with you, you love you, you are you. So when we can see the other and love the other for who they are, then I believe that we'll be able to live in a world that will be abundant, in a world that will be peaceful, in a world that will have justice in it, and ready to bring the world the bring a consciousness of oneness, to see that we are all one, that we are all connected, and in that way we can bring unity and peace. And we're living right now in a world that is not it's in many ways in a very good state, and in many ways not in a good state at all. And I think that, yeah, we're moving into a time where a new consciousness is being born, and part of that, we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about women, we're talking about these new ideas coming into the world. That what are they doing in essence? They are
Yeah.
seeing the other. They're bringing the feminine perspective. They are seeing the other because we're taking the environment into consideration. We're not doing things and paying heavy prices in order to advance. And again, I'm saying this zero sum game. So even if we're looking at all of the development guidelines, all of these things are all guidelines that, yeah, the government or the UN is trying to give to us to be better humans. And the way that we can be better humans is if we start taking other people into consideration in everything that we do. So I would say that, yeah, the more that we can make space for the other and really love our neighbors as we love ourselves, the more we can live in a better world. And I think that it is our duty, no matter if you're a Jew, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you're atheist, if you're Hindu, whatever God you choose to believe in or not believe in, there is a deep need for tolerance and compassion and justice, and not to sound like a hippie, but love.
No, 100%. I really love one thing that I picked up from that is the sense of saying we are coming into a brand new consciousness as we are currently at this moment in itself. And that's a very big takeaway for me, more so from your answer, because this is what it's telling me. And this is something that I kind of had a conversation about not so long ago as well, where I was saying that in the current society, as much as we can say that we have a very much over woke, we won't even say woke, but we will say over woke society that just has information, suddenly just seems that they are the expert of it. And suddenly they don't really want to have that opinion because they heard it from an actual expert and they took it from there and it becomes the only thing that exists in their minds and they throw it off into the world and it becomes law for everybody else. If they can make enough noise about it, kind of makes valid in terms of what it can actually become for the whole society. But at the same time, what I then said to this person in itself about being overwoke is the fact that I believe that as human beings, we are, or what I say in the kind of society, we are not aware that, as you said, we are coming into a new continent, something that is more, how should I say, concise, and well grounded in principles that are able to lead without us feeling uncomfortable about certain aspects. There are a lot of things as we transition from generation to generation. There's certain things that the next generation will find very comfortable that will be like, what are you doing? It's the same thing that happened to us as well from our fathers, our mothers, our grandfathers. They all looked at the next generation and said, this is not how to do this. This is not how to do this. The uncomfortability, I believe, is the one thing that is really blocking us as a society to really understand that we are moving, as you said, again, into a brand new consciousness. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I'm really taking away from this. And yeah, much appreciated for the interview.
Thank you for me. Thank you for your time, your beautiful questions, I hope that whoever listens, wherever you are, that you have received value from this. If there's any way that I can help, if there's anyone who wants to reach out, ask questions, we'll add my contact details and feel free.
Listen, I'm excited about the future. Thank you once more.
Thank you so much. We'll speak soon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
I hope you really enjoyed this episode with Yarin Weltsman. If you are keen on the details, please communicate with me, myself, and I, together with the team at the Teach and Edu Foundation. If you're willing to show your support as an organization, whether to advertise on the podcast or as well as just be one of our funders towards our shows, our tours, and education for sustainability development programs, please also do contact us through the emails that you will see below. Follow us on all social media pages so that you can actually indulge and also buy your wellness journals for those who are also wellness enthusiasts. That also supports towards the Teach and Edu Foundation, all our causes. So we hope to see you yet again for another Varsity on Record, the sustainable, redefined future. See you soon. Take care and stay blessed. Don't forget,